last quarter, so awesome to see that bounce back. Also, it's like, I don't even know, 12, 15 quarters of profitability in a row for Tesla. They haven't been unprofitable since mid-2019. So the company was always struggling for cash that nobody said would ever make it, has now been profitable for 5 years, almost 5 years in a row. And a bad quarter for them is 1.61 billion in profit. So I think you always got to remember how far Tesla's came. And you can also see the cyclicality of the business here. When interest rates are low, when production is booming, they're maximizing output, car vehicle prices are high, they're going to be able to pump out 3 or 4 or 5 billion in earnings in a quarter. But then cyclically, when interest rates go back up, the earnings get depressed. But really what you're seeing here is this, it's an uptrend like this that's going up to the right, but there's lots of variations with the cyclicality of the auto business. That's my interpretation of it. If we scroll down more looking at the financials, let's zoom into cash flow here. Tesla's cash flow bounced back with 3.6 billion cash flow from operations. That's a lot of money they made. They spent 2.27 billion of that on capital expenditures, aka investments for future growth. We're talking AI, robotics. So CapEx still looking pretty high here, but they're making more money than their CapEx. Therefore, they get free cash flow, 1.34 billion added to the bank. This is why Tesla it's so important to take a step back of saying this company has been capital constrained every single year of its existence. Tesla's been capital constrained for so long. They were always like pinching pennies on cash, but now they actually have 30 billion, 31 billion almost in cash, a record. They're producing billions in cash, extra money every quarter. The company's never been more financially sound, giving them the ability to think long term, invest in things. It's just it's a position of strength on the balance sheet that I think is extremely important and will continue as these cash flow numbers are so strong. Now, let's dive into the KPIs here. There's one thing I want to highlight in particular, and that is Tesla's diversification of its revenue into other segments. In this quarter, we had 10% of revenue come from services here, 2.61 billion. We had 12% of revenue, 3 billion, come from energy. And Tesla's auto business was about 20 billion. So I think this is a very interesting diversification here, and you can see in this chart beautifully how services and other and energy are now over 22% of Tesla's revenue, and the company is diversifying away from that cyclical and low margin automotive business. So this is very promising and should give Tesla's earnings a much higher multiple. Now, if we zoom in on the energy business in particular, you can see how much of an insanely monster quarter this was. And the factory from Shanghai to build these mega pack batteries that are stabilizing the grid, that is driving this growth in this business, that hasn't even opened and won't until Q1 2025. This is still ramping from the first factory. So my point is, we are in the early stage of a 5-year, maybe 10-year, maybe 15-year growth in Tesla's energy business. 3 billion a quarter is 12 billion a year. This is already a 12 billion a year business. I think if it were a standalone company, it'd be worth at least 100 billion. So Tesla's energy business, when you think about Tesla's collection of startups, it's easy to gloss over that analogy, but look at one of the startups they started, almost 8 or 9 years ago, Tesla Energy. That startup is now a $12 billion revenue business, billions in earnings, hundreds of billions in market cap potential. Well, that's just an example of a seed Tesla planted 8 years ago. Since then, they have all these other seeds that they've planted, Tesla semi-truck, like the robo-taxi business, Optimus, that haven't come to fruition on the financials yet, but will. And our confidence in those sort of moonshots and startups transitioning into strong financial contributors for the company, that confidence is increasing as they show they can do it with energy. So I just think this is an incredible validation of Tesla being more than a car company. And let's dive in further than that, because it's not just revenue that I think is so interesting about energy, it's the gross profit. So here we're going to dive into gross profit by segment. And as you can see, this is also becoming a huge chunk of not only Tesla's revenue, but profitability. And so energy and storage plus with services is almost producing $1 billion combined, 900 million or so, in incremental gross profit per quarter. So 4 billion per year in incremental gross profit coming from energy and services and other, growing at maybe 50 to 100%. I mean, it's really, really exciting to not just see the revenue growth, but the profitability from these sides of the businesses come to fruition. So now I want to talk a little bit about my notes here on the conference call. I'll tell y'all what my biggest takeaways were. Elon Musk, high level conference call was a lot more boring than expected. Elon seemed a bit distracted, a little frustrated, calm, composed, but I think his biggest takeaway is he is laser focused on FSD. Twice during the call, he mentioned that ARK Invest has a $5 trillion price target or valuation of Tesla's full self-driving. He thinks it could be even higher than that. So Elon Musk is saying, and he says on the conference call, you should not own Tesla stock if you don't believe that we're going to solve FSD. If you think we can solve it, you should own it. But he's not trying to convince you. So, and actually, I want to tie into my important point here on this whole video here. This is my Canva slide of Tesla's valuation. So I think this is so interesting because if you buy, and this is at $246 per share, so Tesla after hours is already coming down a little bit, but Tesla at $246 per share is worth $860 billion of market cap. 246 per share, 3.5 billion shares, 860 billion. That is the price you're buying into Tesla as of the market close. My projection for 2024 revenue, about 110 billion. 2024 profits, about 7 billion. And if we do the math on the price sales ratio of 110 billion, 860 divided by 110, 7.8 price sales ratio. That 860 divided by 7 billion in profits, 123 price earnings ratio. So the point is here, the S&P 500 is trading at 15 or 20 multiple. Tesla's only growing 2%. You cannot maintain 100x PE ratio growing 2%. So what is the market telling you right now? The market is telling you that it believes Tesla's going to significantly increase these earnings and revenue, and is pricing in a massive increase. And this is why Tesla to me is one of the most fascinating companies of all time. We have never seen a company that's this big have so much optionality priced in. Whenever you get to the size of $1 trillion, one of the largest company in the world, you're at a more mature level of profits. The company is going to get valued at 20 to 30 to 40 times revenue. Maybe the only other company that's bucked this trend is Amazon. And Amazon did a very interesting thing where they reinvested all their excess revenue and profits into growing the business at sort of this breakneck pace and showed basically no profitability, at least on their GAAP income statement, for years, but was a continually rising in valuation. And this had a lot of skeptics baffled, like this 100 ratio, why does it make sense? Well, a company's valuation is a set of discounted future expectations. And I think Tesla is baffling the market because it's not a mature business like Google or Apple, where you could value it at 20, 30, 40 times, it's growing a certain amount. They have these massive sort of moonshots that are either massively changing the value of the company, growing it 5 times or 10 times or more, or will never work and won't produce anything. I'm talking about FSD and Optimus. And so the market is grappling with this, saying Tesla's automotive business that can do 7 billion in annual earnings now when high interest rates and EV sales are down, maybe 20 billion in earnings when things are great, maybe 25 or 30 because they're expanding the lineup into trucks, Cybertruck, and cheaper cars. But Tesla at 25 or 30 billion dollars of a car business, to me, is more, and even including energy, it's not going to get that high of a multiple. You're looking at maybe 600 billion max. But that's if they hit 30 billion in earnings or 20 billion in earnings or 700 billion. So my point is, Tesla fairly valuing the car business right now and not assuming too much growth, you would fairly value Tesla maybe at 400 or 500 billion. Because you say they can make 15 billion normalized, let's call it, in earnings, 30x ratio on that, 450 billion. So that's a kind of rough way to think about it. And then, but why is Tesla 860 billion? Why did I buy shares today? Why is it still my number one holding if I think the core business is only worth half of what it's trading at? Because I think the core business is going to grow and eventually be worth $1 trillion with the semi-truck and all that kind of stuff and energy. But so I think it'll justify it there and grow into its valuation. But then I think I'm the optionality of, if robo-taxis work, that's $5 trillion. If there's a 10% chance we think they're going to work, we should assign a $500 billion value, let's say, roughly to it. So 500 billion plus 450 million, that's already 950 billion. That's already up from where we are today. So, and let's say Optimus is a $10 trillion opportunity with a 5% chance of success. So that's another 500 billion in value today. So my point is Tesla right now, the market is pricing in hundreds of billions of valuation of optionality of these $1 trillion robotic and AI and FSD projects. And that is uncharted territory. That is extremely fascinating. And that is why I believe there could be significant alpha in Tesla, because if you bet on the company and they execute on these FSD and Optimus initiatives, as they execute on those, they will get fully priced in, and there will be massive upside as those go from just minor options in the price to being valued at trillions. So, long story short is to say, I think if you buy Tesla stock today, there's a big chunk of that valuation, which is an optionality that you get exposure to robotaxis and Optimus, and the question is, do you think it's a good enough buffer or not? And anyway, diving into other things that were said on the conference call. The new vehicle, Tesla's cheapest thing. Tesla is coming out with a cheaper vehicle first half of next year. This is huge because this is still on track. They don't want Osborne out. This is the pièce de résistance of Tesla. Everything that Tesla's been doing has boiled down to this cheaper car. And whether it's the Cybercab, whether it's like a smaller Model 3Y thing that you can buy, the point is Tesla's going to announce a car that is going to be their new form factor, that is going to this is going to be a game changer. This is the Toyota Camry EVs. This is still coming in less than a year. So that to me is why I look at 2% growth, 8 times price sales, 100 times earnings. That makes no sense to a lot of people unless you understand that Tesla's on the cusp of leveraging all of their technology into this one model that is going to justify the market cap of the whole company and beyond. So that's coming early next year. Now, Robotaxi event has been delayed to 10/10. So I think at the Robotaxi event, we're going to get the cheaper car showed, or maybe not because they don't want to kill sales, but they're going to show this like futuristic cab, a Cybercab that looks like a Cybertruck. It is kind of like a taxi, and someone even asked Elon if other vehicles would look like the Cybertruck because it looks so badass. He said, I don't want to comment on future products. He didn't say no, so my take is they're coming out, and these called it the Cybercab in the last conference call. How dumb do you gotta be? Obviously, they're going to come out with a mini version of the Cybertruck that looks like the most badass futuristic taxi ever, and that is what's coming out on 10/10, and it's going to be crazy. So I thought it was funny that Elon got asked about FSD when the first Robotaxi ride would happen, because that's always what I ask people, and he said that it would be in 2020. Could be the end of this year. Shocked if it wasn't 2025, but he always says that. Who knows?